This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, we now bring you a discussion on Farm Bills 2020 and initiatives in agriculture sector. The participants are Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Smita Gupta, journalist.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched 12 railway projects, including the long-awaited Kosi Rail Mahasetu connecting the Kosi and Mithila regions in Bihar today through a video conference. In his speech on the occasion that comes in the wake of opposition-led protests against three pieces of legislation intended to reform the farm sector, Mr. Modi strongly defended the government-sponsored bill. Be cautious, he said, about those who are trying to mislead you by creating doubt. He did not name anyone, but he accused some people of being bent on spreading lies. Those who did nothing for decades when they were in power are today opposing the bills for agriculture reform, aimed at deregulating the farm sector to give farmers better options and opportunities, Prime Minister Modi said. He added, the bills are aimed at unshackling the farmers and protecting them from middlemen. They can now sell their produce anywhere, anytime, on their own terms. Shekhar, after hearing Mr. Modi today in Bihar, where we know state elections are due later this year, do you think issues related to agriculture will dominate the campaign? Or do you think that the Prime Minister simply used the occasion to address the nation on the farm bills to clarify doubts that may have been raised in people's minds following the opposition coming into it?
Smitaji, we saw yesterday after the Lok Sabha passed two bills, we saw the Prime Minister tweeting on these very points yesterday. Now, of these three bills, one bill was passed on Tuesday, that is the Essential Commodities Act Amendment Bill was passed on Tuesday. This bill did away with that, rather taking out, commodities like cereals, pulses, oilseeds, onion and potatoes from the list of essential commodities. Now, the two bills that were passed yesterday are actually offering an alternative way for the farmer to sell his produce. That is, they can approach through the mandis which will continue to function. At the same time, they can also sell outside the mandi. So that they have a better market and they are not bound by the price or the restrictions being put by the local commission agents who actually do the dealing in the local mandis. Obviously, what has happened is these changes have come, rather were announced as a part of the stimulus by the finance minister to overcome the problem caused by the corona pandemic. That was part of the stimulus package that they are going to open up the market for the farmers. Now, what has happened now is when the ordinances were promulgated, we did not see so much of opposition. But right now, at least from two states, particularly Punjab and Haryana, there are a lot of misgivings and a lot of fears which is being fueled on the basis that this system could eventually lead to the ending of minimum procurement price by the government. And the second thing is that this will lead to a more of corporate entry into agriculture. Now, these two misgivings were addressed by the Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar yesterday. And today the Prime Minister has also emphasized the same thing, that this total lie to propagate that this will lead to end of the system. No, the MSP system will continue. The Food Corporation India will continue to procure. But at the same time, there will be an option open to farmer, particularly the small farmer, the marginal farmer, to sell his produce outside the state using the e-platform. This particular arrangement is already in force in a state like Bihar, where there are a lot of marginal farmers and they are done away with what is called the Agriculture Prices Marketing Committee. Now, these committees used to fix the price and they have the commission agents, and the state governments concerned used to get revenue by way of the mandi tax. And the commission agents, particularly I'm told in a state like Punjab, they earn anything between 2,000 to 2,500 crore. Now, it has been constantly said that the farmers do not get for the price that, they pay for produce. And instead, there is a lot of money that is being made by the middlemen. Now, the changes in the law is to actually do away with the middlemen eventually, and the farmers get a better price. Now, obviously, there are vested interests at work, and we are seeing a lot of agitation. One, there is agitation because of misgivings, apprehensions, which the Prime Minister sought to allay today, and the Agriculture Minister did it in Parliament yesterday. So, the basic fear is what will it eventually lead to? If this agriculture prices committees will go away, will it be end of mandis? No, it will not be end of mandis, which has been said. The mandis will continue to operate, but the farmer will get a choice. Now, farmer getting a choice is obviously disturbing a lot of vested interests which have their own political backing. As I mentioned the figure, like these Haratias, the commission agents in mandis, particularly in Punjab alone, there are 28,000 of them. And of course, they do provide service. They are giving a platform for the farmer.
Shekhar, are you saying that this will favor the small and marginal farmer as opposed to the big farmers? Is that what you're saying?
Definitely help the small and marginal farmer to market his produce beyond the local mandi, where there are several local factors at work, where they are often at a disadvantage and at the mercy of the local commission agents, who pay them a particular rate, and then they in turn sell it outside the state, which is what prevents the farmer from getting actually the full value. Now, the system is he can continue to sell at the local mandi, but he will have the option of selling it out. The first step towards minimizing the role of middlemen, which is the objective of the Prime Minister. And incidentally, Congress too had promised the dismantling of this mechanism. The former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh too had said for the farmers to get better value for his produce, the entire nation should be a market. It should not be restricted by the local condition, local situation. Congress had mentioned it even in 2019 manifesto. Even in 27 manifesto in Punjab, they had mentioned that farmers should be given a better platform to sell their produce and not restricted or restrained by the role of the middleman. So obviously we are seeing that lot of misgivings are coming and education has started. Akali Dal leaving the government also because I think one, there is a fear, and the other fear of the political parties here also. They fear that they may be losing political patronage of these commission agents who are themselves quite influential.
Shekhar, but what about the argument that big companies will have the freedom to stock commodities and they will be able to dictate terms to the farmers, and this may lead to depression in the prices for the cultivators? And the fact that they're pointing out the recent decision on export ban on onion, creating doubts about the implementation of these new laws.
This particular provision allowing for this more of private enterprise into the agriculture, because it has always been the need for infusion of more funds for the agriculture, particularly creation of the necessary infrastructure in terms of capital investment. That has not been happening. Whatever the government has tried to do is to create the chain of cold storage. But without the role of private investment, that the goal of doubling the farmer's income or preventing the shifting of labor from agriculture to other services. At least today, more than 60 to 70% of our people are dependent on agriculture. Now, the fear about whether the private companies will come and start dictating terms, but that is not going to be easy because under the bill on contract farming, where the Empowerment Protection Agreement, it is very clear the private companies cannot deal with the farmer's land. Land is not available for sale because one of the biggest fear is if there is an agreement between a farmer and say a company. And if the farmer is not able to produce enough that he had promised to a particular company, eventually he may lose land because the land could somehow be pledged like it has happened in the cases of private money lenders. But this particular law is very clear that the basic advantage is they can get into an agreement with any agriculture cooperative which is in the agribusiness or food processing industries, and they can also to export it. Particularly benefits the marginal farmer because whose land is less than 5 hectares. They can straight away get into some kind of an agreement, and 86% of our farmers are marginal and small.
When a big private company or an exporter or wholesaler is dealing with a small marginal farmer who is they're not really organized right now, they'll have an edge in dispute.
Nobody is going to rush to a big company just because it's a big company. It is going to depend on what kind of a relationship is between the farmer and the company. Already today, your companies that are into making potato chips like Pepsi and all, they are into some kind of a commercial farming in Punjab itself, where the farmers are selling their produce, whether it's the tomatoes or it's for manufacture of ketchup or for potato chips. So they are already doing it. But the bigger question is, the return will be more. Then, at any situation where the farmer doesn't feel that he is going to get that kind of thing. So the opposition so far to this is that the farmer will be a weaker player in terms of ability to negotiate. So this is a new experiment. You see, the whole idea is how do we boost investment in agriculture? The government is also creating warehouses and all that chain of cold storages. But the whole our problem is today, farmer when he has a bounty in this produce, either he gets a very low price or often the local mandis refuse to take what he has. So he has to throw it on the road. Because the whole problem is the farmer needs the right buyer to be there. This is only increasing the type of buyers. So one of the buyers could be a food processor. But that does not mean the farmer's hands are tied. See, what is happening, Smita, from what I can understand, all these fears are genuine, whether a big company will take over. But there are going to be built-in checks. It's not going to be so easy that one corporate group will come and... But the idea is the lot of the farmers to improve. They need to get a better produce and need to be able to reach their produce in time to the consumer. And that is between the farmer to the consumer. Today we are finding the middlemen have benefited.
So, like you have the Bharatiya Kisan Union and the All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee, they are opposing it. But the Maharashtra Shetkari Sanghatan is supporting it. Why do you think? Do they have different kinds of constituencies among the farmers?
If you look at the way the Baramati has developed particularly, it is one of the India's standing examples of agro-based industry. The rise in agro-based industries in and around Pune and Baramati has boosted the economy of the local farmers. Today, the farmers in Maharashtra are organized as cooperatives, and though some of the cooperatives have arrangements or even have investments made in some agro-based industries.
You're saying they have already seen slight loosening up of the government controls on the agricultural sectors and they have seen its benefits.
They have seen the benefit and they feel that some of the fears, because we are not trying to say that, all these fears are not unjustified. There will be fears because this is a new arrangement and a new system. Because for the farmer as well as for other players in the system, whether it is a commission agent, maybe their roles will change. Perhaps these commission agents themselves, instead of just handling the local mandi, they could themselves be agents for the markets outside the state.
In sort of summing up, if we look at the Farm Bills 2020 as well as all the government-sponsored initiatives in the agriculture sector over the last 6 years, how would you describe this government as farmer-friendly? How would you sum it up?
Yeah, I will say definitely they are more concerned about the state of agriculture because this problem has been there for a long time. And here is a government that is trying to look at solutions. Now, some solutions are evolved by way of these three bills, which tries to change the way, particularly the business of agriculture has been handled so far, which has definitely not benefited the farmers. Now that the bill has been passed in Lok Sabha, they will have been passed in upper house also. And once the rules are framed under this legislation, one is going to see more of checks and balances to ensure that farmer gets a wider market and gets an assured income. And there are more investments. There are a lot of, I would say, incentives for investments to move into agriculture sector. And thirdly, the role of whoever are now involved in the agriculture trade, their roles will also undergo change because it is not necessary that commission agents will be totally eliminated. Will not be eliminated. But definitely the kind of profiteering we are seeing by the middlemen and which has affected our agriculture and which has not benefited the consumer, that will undergo a big change. It is a change that is being feared, and I always believe even a good change, but which is inconvenient at the beginning, is always resisted, which means there need to be a more dialogue between the government and the farmer bodies, and particularly states like Punjab and Haryana will also have to understand that there are certain problems, definitely, as the leaders of these two say, that there are certain problems, particularly related to a Punjab farmer or a Haryana farmer, they will have to be addressed separately. But definitely, holistic view has to be taken that what is the purpose behind the legislation, because the welfare of farmers cannot be held hostage to existence of certain estate groups which may enjoy political patronage for various reasons in some states. But I think the broader view is definitely a time has come that the agriculture should no longer remain a kind of an industry that is perpetually sick at a time when that it is feeding millions of hungry mouths.
Thank you so much, Shekhar Iyer, for throwing light on three bills which for the layman has been quite complicated. But I'm sure that in the coming days, these three bills will remain in the news as people grapple with both sides of the story and see whether the government's efforts to free up the farm sector leads to a better life for our farmers, who are backbone of this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on Farm Bills 2020 and initiatives in agriculture sector. The participants were Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Smita Gupta, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.